morning, college baseball Central fans. This is the weekend rotation. We're back with another episode every single Saturday morning. We come to you at 10 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. my time. I think it's 11 o'clock your time, right, AJ?
Yeah, 11 o'clock my time and 11 o'clock on Saturday. We already have an SEC series completed and coming off a night of fantastic ACC games last night.
It's crazy the amount of games we got in. There's some weather coming in different parts of the country, so they're trying to sneak in a bunch of these games early. Smart planning, they're all ahead of this. But we got a lot of games to talk about. Folks, if you've been enjoying our show, you enjoy all of our shows, go on, like, subscribe, share this. Go on there and go see all of our other content too. We got ACC content from our terrific ACC team. The SEC team has a terrific group of writers and Southern Fried Baseball. I got everything out west. I mean, we're getting you covered for baseball across the country. We're going to dive right into an ACC matchup, though. They've already played two games. They started on Thursday. Stanford and Virginia. Virginia's taken the first two games of the series. First game, 8-11, Virginia wins. Second game, 7-13, Virginia wins. The first game was Virginia out hitting Stanford in a back and forth game. Not a lot of home runs, but Arroyo does get one going for the Hoos. Game two, Stanford jumps out to that 5-0 lead with the three-run bomb from Jimmy Natai. You're like, okay, this is how they even up the series. They get going here. Virginia claws its way back, and then a huge six-run seventh inning, and as Arroyo and Becker both hit home runs, and it just pushes them to victory. This is the Virginia team we expected at the preseason, right, AJ?
Yeah, this is the Virginia team we expected, and it was kind of now or never for them. Coming into a ranked series against a Stanford team that, last week didn't have the series they wanted against Duke, but it was interesting to see, what this series would look like. Was Virginia going to get back on track? Was Stanford going to get back on track? Stanford now, they've lost five in a row, and that's not something that we expected from this team 2 weeks ago. But they're kind of getting the meat of their ACC schedule, playing the better competition, and outside of the opening weekend series against North Carolina for them in conference play. But this is kind of what they can expect week in and week out in the ACC. Virginia looked like the offense we've expected. They haven't hit like we thought they would up until this point this year pretty consistently. Now offense is finally starting to get going. It can do enough to carry that pitching staff. Pitching staff has enough depth there, but they need to hit, and now they're finally starting to.
I think that they're going to find more bullpen arms as this season goes for Virginia. I think they're going to figure it out. I've always been on the side of that a good coach is going to figure things out this season, and Oak is a great coach. I think he's going to get these guys going. Just like I think Esker and Stanford's fine. They won 5 of 6 to start the season against UNC and Duke, two teams that were ranked top 15. They happened to lose the whole series and get swept at home by Cal, which was a tough one, I think. I think if they look back at the reason why, if they don't win the ACC or have a chance of winning the ACC, that's probably why. But this Virginia series was a good series, and traveling all the way east, it's a tough one. Good for Virginia to get going. It's not the end of the world for Stanford fans. They can go out there and go get today's game. If Virginia wins today, it still is not the end of the world, but it's a good thing for Virginia to get going again, I think. Mississippi State and LSU have played two games. Yesterday's was a little bit rain delay, so it was one of the later games going. Mississippi State, the first game, loses 6-8 and loses 1-2, so LSU has won both the first two games. Mississippi State jumped out to a lead in the first game there. And the first 5 innings there, Reese and Powell and Hines all homer, but LSU storms back with 5 in the fifth. Homers from Dickinson and Milam. The difference, though, was Zach Cohen in that first game, AJ. 4 innings, just 1 hit, and 7 strikeouts to close out that game. And then in the second game, Frey homers, Hernandez home runs, and they combined for just 7 hits apiece. Anson outduels Cohen in a terrific SEC pitching matchup. Anson and Evans go for 18 strikeouts yesterday.
Yeah, MVP of the weekend for LSU so far has to be the bullpen. It's to have two guys come in and just be absolutely nails in two different games. You have a high scoring affair, and then to come in and shut down, Zach Cowan has kind of the entire LSU fan base up in arms of like, why isn't this guy being recognized as one of the best relievers in baseball? I'm hearing things, he's a Friday night guy. You got coming out of the pen, shutting guys down, and you look at his results, and it's hard to argue with what their claims are. He is coming in against very good lineups who are having productive days. It wasn't like Mississippi State, that was the 2-1 game. No, they put up 8 runs, or they'd put up 6 runs, and you come in and just shut them down. And incredibly impressive. And then completely different style of game in game 2. Pico Cone throwing like the ace he is. Ayenson, I think it's the best we've seen him throw this year. 2-1 game. Just kudos to, again, the bullpen for LSU, just being nails. Case and Evans, just another, I think it was 4 innings shutout baseball. Absolutely needed that to secure the series, and now you have Mississippi State on the ropes for their season.
Yeah, it was really a tremendous effort there from the bullpen of LSU, and Mississippi State is reeling. I mean, they've been playing good enough to win games. They just haven't won those games, and that's got to be just so frustrating, especially on the road here at LSU. LSU keeps finding ways to win. We know that they lost the series last weekend in Texas, but at home they're really tough, and they prove a reason why they're one of those teams that you put in the top 10 consistently. And that pitching staff has been just something else. I mean, that bullpen, if they're going to pitch like that, they're going to be tough in any series that you face them. Whether it's a weekend, whether it's a regional, whether it's a super, you're going to have a hard time if that staff is going like that. The series that is finished, Florida and Ole Miss. So 3 games have already been played. They played a doubleheader yesterday. They played one on Thursday. Florida lost the first 2 of those, 5-7 and 9-10, with a walk-off in game 2, which was the first game of the doubleheader yesterday for Ole Miss with a sac fly. And then Florida ends up scoring 4 in the ninth to come back and win the third game, 11-8. They were down in that game, but they had to score 4 runs in the ninth inning. Will Furnace was huge for Ole Miss all weekend, and Luke Heyman really was really big for Florida. They just have been all over the place, but now they're 1-8 in SEC play. AJ.
Yeah, they're on the board at least. Luke Heyman yesterday had 3 homers over the 2 games. Trying to carry that offense, still only amounted to 1 win for them. There are probably 4 or 5 different games that they can look at and say, if we threw strikes, if we limited the free passes, if we made the play defensively, then we win those games. But in a competitive conference like the SEC, you don't make those plays, you don't make those pitches, and instead of being around 500, keeping your head above water, you're staring at 1-8 and just happy to get that one, because that one could have very easily been a loss, and you could have been sitting there at 0-9. Pitching staff for Florida, I saw Coach O'Sullivan yesterday just beside himself with the free bases, non-competitive pitches. It's hard to win when you can't trust your starting pitching. We thought Florida had a good starting pitching staff. Yes, they're dealing with some injuries, but there is talent there. But the talent has to fill up the strike zone. If you're not filling up the strike zone, then you're getting yourself behind in counts. You're having to just lay it over the middle. And against a lineup like Ole Miss, or against kind of any of these SEC lineups, you're not going to get away with fastballs middle, or up in the zone, or flip over, 2-0 curveball. They're going to be sitting on that, and they're going to do damage. And we saw that. Fortunately for Florida, they had some offensive pieces enough in the game 3 to secure the win. Probably should have gotten the win in game 2, but pitching again let them down. They need to solidify somebody out of the bullpen that they can go to. But it's really hard when your starting pitching's going down and you're having to move guys around. Having Alex Philpott start game 3, I don't think anybody had that on their radar to start this year, but they're doing that in conference play in a need-to-win game.
Yeah, in a game where they were 0-8 going in and saying, all right, we need your best effort maybe ever in your career right now to go out there and keep us in this ball game. Just crazy. I mean, if they don't score 4 in the ninth yesterday, though, AJ, we're looking at a whole nother story. You're talking 0-9, but they did go out there and get the win. Crazy that they allowed the walk-off in the second game there, where they probably should have won that one, and they just seem to find ways to lose rather than finding ways to win, which is kind of the opposite of last year's team, where they would win those conference games and lose all the midweeks. This year, they're losing a lot of these games, and this every game right now for Florida. They are reeling. They got to figure something else, but at least they got a long weekend. They're done playing baseball for a minute, so maybe they'll get a chance to heal up and get that weekend rotation going. A different game. Auburn won, Georgia 4. This is not the way we've seen Georgia win baseball games, AJ. And I said, before I put them in my top 5, I want to see them play better. I want to see them play a good team. This Auburn team's a very good baseball team, ranked in the top 25. They hold them to 4 hits. Colton Smith out of the bullpen, 5 innings, no hits, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. Obi and Jackson both hit 2-run bombs, and that was it. That's all they needed.
I do want to see a stat of what percentage of Georgia runs have come off of the homer, because it has to be just some absurd ratio at this
I
point.
think it was like 37% this year so far.
And it only went up yesterday, because that's 4 runs on homers. But again, it was only the 2. Auburn kept themselves in the game. Cam Tilley might be the unsung hero of the day, being able to preserve the bullpen a little bit, coming in and just shutting down and giving his offense a chance. But Georgia pitching staff, kind of the first time we've seen somebody out of Bryant Curley dominate and limit a good offense. We've seen, Georgia have to outslug teams, come from behind, have a big first inning. Charlie Goldstein didn't allow that. He had a couple more free passes than he would like, but by and large, he was good. And that combo of Goldstein, and, sorry, that combo of Goldstein and Colton Smith really kind of pieced together a great Friday night performance for Georgia. If they can prove that they can pitch, it will be a very, very, very dangerous club because we know the offense is there. They just haven't had any consistent starting pitching. If that can show up, watch out.
Yeah, and we all know that there was some arm talent there at Georgia, right? And we know Wes Johnson's a great pitching coach. Colton Smith has all the arm talent in the world. He just has had a hard time finding the zone. The one walk and the 8 strikeouts, that's the strikeout to walk ratio you want from a guy like Colton Smith. If he's beating up the zone, that's tough. That's tough on opponents, and he's going to go out there and do a lot of things for this team, especially if he's coming out of the pen like that. But again, the first big pitching performance we've seen on a whole complete set for a whole day. Big for Georgia going out there, and the crowd was just filled and lovely out there. Big win for Georgia, though, at home. Clemson and Georgia Tech, big marquee matchup in the ACC. Clemson wins 9-7. Clemson seemed to score, felt like they were scoring almost every freaking inning, going out there and putting pressure on. And then Georgia Tech would just answer right back. It was a great back and forth game. Jarrell and Priest both hit home runs for Clemson. Kyle Lotus does for Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech would get the tying run to the 8th and the 9th inning and fly out to the wall, AJ, in both of those. Really putting pressure on late. But I can't wait for the rest of this weekend. This is a very good matchup with 2 very good ACC teams.
Yeah, this might be the most exciting matchup of the weekend. Just 2 teams who seemingly know how to win. Starting pitching's good enough, but the offenses are going to be competitive. So it's, you could very easily see a 5-3 game. You could very easily see a 9-7 game, and both be well played. We see a lot of games where it's sloppy. You're not really going to see that between these 2 teams. But the story was just kind of Clemson putting on the pressure and just having that ability to keep the pressure on, keep tacking on runs. Made Tate McKee look a little human, made Mason Patel look a little human, which is his first rough outing of the year. Very hard to do. And then, Malstead coming in and being able to pitch out of some jams, get maybe some favorable luck with keeping some balls in the ballpark to keep or to secure the win for Clemson. But that's Clemson baseball. They are going to hit. They're going to be scrappy. They're going to keep tacking on runs. And that's kind of Georgia Tech baseball as well. I am very excited to see this series. I think we're going to see 2 more very well played games. Be locked in on this if you want to watch some good baseball.
Yeah, this was a game we pointed out earlier. Okay, this might be the pitching matchup that we want to see. And both those pitchers got hit a little bit, which was a little different. I mean, both these teams can play. They're complete teams. I don't think we have any threat of either one of these teams worried about them. But, man, really good baseball game. Can't wait for the rest of the weekend on that one. Another one that turned out to be a really good baseball game that, preseason maybe people didn't think that this would be. But you're talking about Oklahoma and Alabama now. 2 teams that are both in the top 15 in almost every major poll. Oklahoma 6, Alabama 8. Alabama just keeps finding ways to win. They get up early with Justin LeBron home run in the 3rd, making it 4-0. Dickinson home run cuts it in half for Oklahoma. Oklahoma scores a couple in the 8th or in the 7th, and then a solo shot from Taki takes the lead in the 8th. Bama pushes across 3 in the bottom of the 8th and secures the win. I think the biggest concern here, though, was that Justin LeBron did hurt his wrist a little bit. He's okay. It's going to be day to day, but a big way for Alabama to just keep finding ways to win ball games.
Yeah, and for me, looking at this coming into the series, I think Alabama was definitely the favorite. Not to use the term fool's gold with Oklahoma, but you look at who they've played so far in the SEC, they haven't kind of run up against a juggernaut yet. You have a series at South Carolina that if South Carolina doesn't make 3 errors in the 9th inning, you lose that series. Mississippi State, there are a couple different parts that, you won 2 out of 3 there, but that could have easily flipped on you. And now you run into an Alabama team that kind of pushed Tennessee to the brink for potentially losing a series. They did get one off Tennessee. So Alabama has the depth on offense. It's not just Justin LeBron carrying the team. He has in some games. But if he has to miss a game or 2, the offense is deep enough without him. The pitching staff is elite. They got a ton of arms that can run out. It's not just a Friday night guy and a bullpen guy. Oklahoma, it's kind of been Kyson Witherspoon, and then who else can perform out of the bullpen? Who else can, provide starting depth? His brother is good. His brother throws hard, but he's been, victimized by the long ball a little bit.
Yeah.
I see the single digit ranking next to Oklahoma, and I'm kind of like pump the brakes on that. I don't know if I'm fully buying in on that, but Alabama, I'm fully buying in on Alabama.
Yeah, I've had Alabama higher than Oklahoma, and I was shocked still to see Oklahoma ahead of Alabama. I get it. They've performed in the games they're supposed to. They've gone out there and won games, and Kyson gives you a chance to win every single Friday night. Alabama winning that Friday night against him is a big deal, and it's a good win for Alabama to go out there and get that win. Um, it's going to be an interesting weekend for the rest of it. Like you said, Malachi's got to come out and figure out something for Oklahoma today. He's been really good in certain aspects, but then he gets a little inconsistent, and then the long ball beats him up. If he gives up a couple walks and a bomb, it's 3 runs all of a sudden. So gonna have to figure out a way to win, but Alabama just keeps finding ways to win. It's great for them. Arkansas 9, Vanderbilt 0. This one felt a little different. I know that we've all said that we have concerns about Vandy's offense, but home runs from Maxwell and Cozile proved to be enough as Arkansas pitching dominates. Zach Root, 7 2/3, 3 walks, 3 hits, 7 Ks. It looked like he awoken last weekend into this Friday roll, and now this was just another episode.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to make the argument that this is the most complete game I've seen Arkansas play. Um, Zach Root on the mound just absolutely dominated. The offense continued to perform, which is something, question mark coming into the year is Arkansas always seems to have offensive talent, but does it actually produce up to that talent? Last year, Wahiwa Aloy is coming in as this, arguably the best shortstop in college baseball, and then he doesn't live up to the numbers, or he doesn't produce the numbers that you would want. And so it's kind of like, okay, is it an approach thing for Arkansas? Is it a coaching thing? Is it just everyone gets in their own heads and, pitching so dominated that we don't need to be dominant. We can just kind of do the bare minimum and that's enough. So having Arkansas be one of the most explosive offenses in the country is honestly really refreshing. And not only just for their fans, but for college baseball, because it's like, okay, Arkansas is legit this year. They're not a one-trick pony like we've seen in the past.
Yeah,
And
they're
this
not
was
pitching only.
no, and this was the perfect example of that. 9 hits, 9 runs. They only struck out 10 times. They drew 9 walks. Like this team was on base, and it's not an indictment on Vanderbilt's pitching staff. Like, yes, they didn't have the outing they wanted. JD Thompson didn't have the performance he wanted against this lineup, but this lineup is clicking for Arkansas. Cam Cozile, welcome back to Vanderbilt, kind of made his return in style. But again, it's game 1 of a series. Vanderbilt, very well coached team. I don't expect them to give up on games 2 and 3. Wouldn't be surprised if we see more competitive games from them, but I'm just incredibly impressed with Arkansas.
Yeah, it was all Arkansas today, and it's no shot at Vanderbilt. I mean, I think that we believe that they're a good team. They're a top 25 squad. They have pitching. We have had worries about the offense, and Zach Root kind of took advantage of those today. Big win for Arkansas fans. Got to be happy about going out there. Especially any win on the road in SEC play is huge. Being able to go out there and dominate is even bigger. UCLA and Purdue. Now I know, folks, you guys would be like, what are you guys talking about? No, this is a big game here. UCLA and Purdue. UCLA scores 8, Purdue 5. Big win there. A back and forth affair. Choi homers for Purdue to start it. Salgado enters back with this in the second with a solo. Purdue scores 2 in the bottom of the second. West homers for UCLA. Back and forth, back and forth. The 3-run shot from Martin in the 5th was finally the lead that they took for UCLA, and they wouldn't look back. And Del Vecchio finally gets his first win of the season.
Yeah, and it's he hasn't pitched like he hasn't deserved the first win. It just hasn't worked out for him for whatever reason. Whether it's you have the lead, then you lose it, and then you get it back later, or tough luck losses. But this is a UCLA team that, Mark, me. I texted the group very early on in the year preseason, and I was like, "This UCLA team, I'm all in. I'm hooked. Rock's going to carry the offense. The pitching staff is going to be good enough." And it was kind of UCLA's let me down over the past couple of years, because I have tried to ride this bandwagon for the past couple of years, but I was in on them again this year, and they are playing some of the best baseball in the country. I think 20-5 on the year, 8-2 in the Big Ten. And against good teams. Like Purdue isn't a bad team. It's not your stereotypical Big Ten baseball team.
Wins.
Big Ten baseball this year is up. Kudos to Noah for trying to instill some vigor. But I think how competitive the teams are now in the Big Ten, even without Noah, we would have seen baseball kind of coming out. And maybe it's because you have programs like Oregon and like UCLA entering the conference, but very good baseball is being played in the Big Ten. It's not just the ACC and the SEC. And UCLA is playing some of the best baseball in the Big Ten this year.
I think the biggest difference in Big Ten is that they're investing money into the baseball programs. They're actually putting money back into these programs and saying, "Hey, we want to be good again." There was a time where Big Ten baseball was a huge thing, and seeing them return to some of that glory would be outstanding. And this is a big one for UCLA, going out there and getting a road win against a 20-win Purdue team. Terrific out there, and a big effort there from UCLA. And yes, AJ told us all off season, and I said, "Listen, I know they got Rock Cholowski. He's a stud. He's a superstar, no doubt. What else they got? Well, they've been proving me wrong and saying that they can go out there and win ball games with different guys. It's really good to see." Penn State and Michigan, another Big Ten matchup. This one here was a marquee matchup in our books. We had these teams pegged as two very good teams. Penn State has been better than advertised. They win this game 12-5. Ryan Weingartner and Bryce Molinaro, both homer, each have 3 RBIs. Penn State wins a tough road game here and continues to impress for us. Colby Turner and Jeter Ibarra, both good games for Michigan in the loss.
Yeah, I mean, Penn State, going into an environment where Michigan, needs some wins. Like, yes, they're 5-5 in the Big Ten after this, but they're 13-12 overall. They've played a very tough schedule, but they probably deserve to have several more wins than they do. This is a Michigan team that's, trying to get back on their feet, trying to make a statement of we belong in the conversation for the best teams in the Big Ten. And, kudos to Penn State for coming in, playing very fundamentally sound baseball against a well-coached team and just putting the pressure on, having, you get hit by a 2 spot in the first, come back with a 3 spot to take the lead, and then never really let up from there. Ryan DeSanto did enough to give Penn State the cushion. But really the Penn State offense of just, Paxton Kling, LSU transfer, being able to just sometimes lead off using the 2 hole today. The presence he has given that lineup some juice and some explosiveness at the top. And it's kind of infectious to where it's spread all the way throughout the lineup of there's no easy outs now. Like, yes, there might not be a guy that scares you, but it's a scrappy lineup that will spray the ball all over the yard, not give you an at-bat off. And Michigan found out the hard way tonight. Last night.
It just feels like a Penn State offense that kind of just leans on you all game, and then eventually they take their spot. Like, they get a chance, and then they score a run here and there, and they just keep punching back. And you're like, man, are they just going to go away? They just don't. They just continue to put pressure on you all game long. Big win for Penn State, especially on the road in Big Ten play. This team has been very good thus far. Florida State and Notre Dame. Florida State loses this one 9-16. Freshman Miles Bailey starts off. He hits 2 home runs early in this game, right? And you're like, okay, this is Florida State. They're fully in full roll mode right now. And then Notre Dame retakes the lead in the 6th off of Lee and Moreno home runs. Williams hits a home run back for Florida State to tie it back up. Gump homers for Notre Dame to retake the lead. Carnes comes back up for Florida State to tie it back up in the 8th. And then 3 home runs and 8 runs for Notre Dame in the 8th just said, okay, we're going to push this game away. Zimbardo, DeMarco, and Jefferson all hit home runs in that 8th inning and just said, we're going to secure the victory here.
Yeah, and there was nothing on the Notre Dame pitching staff side that made you go, okay, this staff did enough to win. It was just the offense just being relentless, not having any off bats off. Jamie Arnold, he's tough enough to score against, and to jump on him early and put yourselves in the game and kind of ignite the offense to, okay, not only can if we can hit Jamie Arnold, we can hit any arm they throw out here. And that was the case. They were just continuing to just tack on, fight back. There were a couple different points where, you think when Florida State ties it back up that, okay, maybe this is the point where they take control of the game. Maybe this is the point where you have your guy come out of the bullpen for Florida State and just be nails. And the exact opposite happened. Notre Dame had a bunch of really competitive at-bats, put up a big number, and put the game away themselves. I don't think anybody expected this, but this is a Notre Dame team that in the past has shocked some teams. Going on the road and playing them is never fun. So it shouldn't be too shocking. Maybe the final score should be a little bit jarring, but it's a tough road test for Florida State in South Bend.
Yeah, and I will say there is one person at least in the country that had this one picked in Monty Taylor, our own ACC guy. He said Notre Dame's going to win one game this weekend and be close in another one. he nailed it. I mean, they really just kept staying close. I thought this was the one they were going to stay close in, and then they came back and won that game. Really good effort there from Notre Dame. Tough home win there. Link Jarrett going over and losing to his former squad as Notre Dame takes that early one. This one was a big surprise in the ACC. I think folks that haven't watched enough ACC ball are kind of surprised by the Vautech offense, but they win 13-2 at Wake. Wake, who has the pitching, just didn't have it today. 9 runs in the first inning for Virginia Tech says everything you need to know about this one. Tech all small ball in that first inning, just really just singling Wake to death. Never looked back. And if you're going to give Brett Renfro a 9-run cushion to start the weekend, you're going to feel really good about yourself.
Yeah, and that's, kudos to Virginia Tech for jumping on Logan Lunsford. Logan didn't have the outing he wanted last weekend against Clemson. I'm sure he was trying to lock in and make this, his bounce back outing. And 9 runs in the first. Logan Lunsford got 1 out. We haven't seen that from him basically all year, his worst performance of the year. But it's more, credit to Virginia Tech of just small ball finding barrels. It wasn't the massive, 3-run homer or anything that really drove up his stat line, but it was just good, consistent at bats up and down the lineup. You could tell they were prepared. And I don't care who you are. If you give most teams Friday night aces a 9-run cushion in the first inning before they go out there, it's going to be a pretty fun night for y'all. And that's what Virginia Tech did. And they coasted to a run rule win over a Wake Forest team that playing really good baseball coming in. Dropped a Clemson series, but that's nothing to, be upset about, dropping a series at Clemson. But, Virginia Tech needed this. They also trying to assert themselves in the ACC at this point. The hierarchy is starting to, teams are going to sift through a little bit in the rankings. And they had a series they didn't like against NC State. They won a series against Louisville, so it's kind of what can we expect from Virginia Tech? And if Virginia Tech can make this statement against Wake Forest, then maybe we can start talking about them, maybe not in the elite of the ACC, but definitely that tier 2.
Yeah, they're upper middle right now, right? And they've really performed well at home. And so outside of Blacksburg, though, it's been like hit or miss. This is a good hit for them. I mean, they had just the 8 hits, but they drew 11 walks. They had really good at-bats all day long, and they just pressured Wake Forest, and it just never felt – I mean, 9 runs in the first, you don't really feel good about that ever. But when it's all from singles and small ball, it even feels worse if there's not even a long ball mixed in there, like to really break it open. You're just like, man, they just keep getting at bats. They get a walk here, and then a walk, and then a single, and then all of a sudden you're down. Just a really good performance there for Virginia Tech to start the weekend, and Renfro really good on the mound. He just went out there and shoved after that. He's like, okay, you guys gave me a lead. I'm just going to hold on to it. Let's go. Use code CBC10 or CBC. You get 10% off your Chinook seedery order, man. There are so many good seeds out there. These guys are awesome. They're all over the country. I know we've been doing seed giveaways everywhere we go, and people are just going bonkers for these seeds. I've been on a big smokehouse barbecue kick. I'm out. I'm out of seeds. I ran out of those seeds. I got a few bags left here, and I'm just kind of like get them and find them all. And you know what? They're everywhere. You can buy them on Amazon. You can go on the stores. You can go out there. Go to ChinookSeedery.com and use our code CBC, get 10% off. AJ, I know that the seeds thing, we're back in this game, man. We love it.
Oh yeah, and it's your classic original. They have dill pickle, which a lot of people relate to, and it's my personal favorite, hatch chili. Jalapeno ranch is kind of a twist on classic ranch flavor. Actually tried the cinnamon toast for the first time the other day. Huge fan. Completely different twist on what you might expect. It's like dessert, but it really good, really flavorful. Basically high quality seeds, no matter what flavor you get.
Yeah.
I really can't point you wrong.
Yeah, no, they're so good. I mean, people try them for the first time. They're like, oh, well, how do I get more of these? And I'm always telling them, use our code, go on there and purchase them. And people are buying sampler packs. I know that they've been selling so many sampler packs. It's awesome. It's awesome to see college baseball going out there and supporting this. But use them all the time, man. I use them at golf. I'm going to go play 18 today. I'm going to take my seeds on the course and go have a brilliant time. So use our code CBC. You get 10% off your Chinook seedery order. I know I've told lots of folks, but go out there and get them. I mean, it's terrific seeds. Big sunflower seeds, really good flavor. These guys do a tremendous job. All right. Tennessee, South Carolina. AJ, Tennessee wins 11-7. South Carolina felt like maybe they were just going to stay in this game. Bargo hits a home run for Tennessee to start it, and then Petrie answers with that 2-run homer. You're like, all right, here we go. And then 5 run second inning there for Tennessee, and that was pretty much the start of the disaster for the Gamecocks. It was capped off with a home run there from Inslee. Vols lead 10-2 going to fifth. South Carolina would keep punching back and just try to keep getting back into this game. It just was a little bit too little too late, and it just really never felt like they were fully in this game after that second inning.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the stat line, and if you kind of cover up the runs, you look and go, okay, South Carolina touched Liam Doyle for 9 hits and 5 runs.
Yeah.
South Carolina's starter had 4 innings pitched, 6 hits, 3 runs, and then you go and look at the bullpen, and it's okay. Trade off relievers. You touched up Franklin for 2 2/3 for 2 runs. Tyler Pitzer came in and gave up 2 runs. So you're like, okay, this is a very evenly played ball game. South Carolina out hit Tennessee, and then you go and you look, and it's the starter for South Carolina had 8 runs given up, but only 3 of those were earned. It was that inning of ground ball that would have been a routine double play. That instead of men first and second, nobody out, it's 2 outs, and instead of that, you have a guy sacrifice bunt, then you have a couple hits, and then you have the big home run, and that turns into that massive inning that just completely ruins your outing. It seems like that's been South Carolina this whole year of not making the clutch play defensively. We watched that in the Oklahoma series. If you make one of those plays in the top of the ninth inning, you win that game, you win that series. So South Carolina needs to find a way. Yes, they made one error, but the one error was an absolutely critical one against a lineup you cannot give extra outs to, and the Tennessee offense just pounced. It was, it's an offense that maybe isn't as explosive as last year's up and down the lineup, but it is definitely lethal. It's one of the best in college baseball. And if you tell them that, hey, Liam Doyle's going to give up 5 and you're still going to win this game on the road, they'll take that any day. And then aren't going to be many outings for Liam Doyle where he gives up 5. So I'm South Carolina, this is one of those games that they could have won. The stat line, the final score might be a little deceiving. Definitely when it got to 10-2, it wasn't a game that was being played like it was 10-2. But Tennessee is definitely happy to escape with the win there because it felt like South Carolina was trying to come back. But South Carolina needed that one for it to slip away. Very much kind of similar vibes as Florida and Ole Miss of just beating yourself.
Yeah, and the biggest thing, you give somebody an inch, they're going to take a mile. Well, if you give Tennessee a base runner, they're going to take you 400 feet and make you pay for it, unfortunately. And that's just what happens. I mean, South Carolina played a lot better than this game shows with 11-7 score, but they got to figure out ways to win, AJ, and they got to figure out ways to field the ground balls and get outs. I mean, when their guys are throwing strikes for them, that hasn't been the case all season, but now they're throwing strikes and then you can't make the outs. That hurts really bad behind you. Oklahoma State 2, Kansas 5. The Jayhawks just continue to find ways to win against really good baseball teams. They've sputtered as of late, but this one here is a big win at home for them. Really just shutting down Oklahoma State, and we have question marks all over about this Oklahoma State team. I think we all think that they're going to eventually turn it around, but they just keep going out there. 2 solo home runs is all they get in this one. Vaguely, just huge performance there for Kansas as he goes 8 innings pitched, just the 3 hits and 10 strikeouts in the victory. Kansas gets a home run from Bollinger early in the first, and it really never felt like it was a ball game after that.
No, I mean, it's weird to watch an Oklahoma State team and feel like the offense isn't threatening. Yeah. And that's kind of been the entire year of yeah, you have some names. Yes, those guys have potential, but it's asking 1 or 2 guys to carry a lineup, and it feels like they're having too much pressure put on their shoulders. There's no support around them. The pitching staff isn't able to really win many games on their own. And then when you go out and face a Friday night ace like Dominic Vagley, who is, by the way, one of the true Friday night aces. 8 innings at 10 strikeouts. I really don't care who you are playing in conference to be able to do that. That is incredible, especially Kansas needed this. Kansas is playing really, really good baseball. Even if they have some tough results, the team's still playing well. It's not like they are, failing to play fundamentally sound baseball. They're still going to attack the right way. Pitching staff's still going to perform. Kansas is one of my teams that I kind of maybe slept on to begin the year. Noah tried to wake me up and be like, hey, this is going to be a really good team. He's been kind of juicing up that fan base, turning that place into a raucous environment that you don't want to go play at. So I don't know if Oklahoma State can bounce back. It would almost take an offensive identity shift at this point. It's just, and to try to do that against Kansas, not a team I would want to have to come to life against.
Not fun on the road there, and that ballpark has turned out to be tremendous. There's been so much fans showing up. I'll speak a little bit later on this about how the fans have really shown up across the country, but big win for Kansas. They needed to get that thing going right again. I think they're still one of those teams that's on the fringe of competing for the Big 12, and we'll talk more about that later in a segment I'm going to bring up for you, AJ. Kentucky 7, A&M 9. Kentucky jumps out to a 7-1 lead, right? And we all look at this in the fourth inning. We go, it's just another episode. It's just turn the page. A&M offense is gone, and this game's over. And what the heck's happening? They finally show some life. Bear Harrison has been some life for this team. He's been trying. He's been doing his best effort. He hits that home run in the second. Singles home 2 in the fourth to cut that lead to 7-3. A&M then scores 5 in the fifth. The relief pitching for A&M finally showed up. Weston Moss, 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, 6 strikeouts. If you looked and you're saying, our starter Ryan Prager is going to give up 7 runs and we're going to go out there and win this baseball game still, tremendous effort from Weston Moss coming out of the pen there. The no runs was just the biggest difference there for A&M. And then the offense finally being able to put up something and winning this game 9-7.
This game seemingly was the exact opposite of every conference game A&M has played this year. The starting pitcher went out and had a bad performance, and then the bullpen picked him up and the offense picked him up. It feels like up until this point, it was the starting pitcher goes out and shoves and keeps him in it, but the offense isn't scoring, and then the bullpen lets him down. It's weird that their first conference win comes when Ryan Prager, their ace, who they kind of rely on to go deep in games, gets hit around a lot early and is forced out after 3. I'm sure at many points fans for A&M were just kind of like, okay, if Ryan Prager's not going to lead us to a win at some point, then it's not going to happen. And they probably thought that way, third or fourth inning last night. But offense showed some life. Like you said, Bear Harrison being kind of the spark, outside of somebody like Jace Laviolette. If someone else can be there and lengthen that lineup, take some of the pressure off of him. Because right now I think Jace feels a ton of pressure to help lead the offense, and he's doing his part. He's doing everything he can within his power. But there needs to be somebody else. And Bear Harrison stepping up really kind of led A&M to the comeback. Massive for them. If they take this series, then they're actually ahead of Kentucky in the standings. Kentucky's had a rougher slide than maybe some of us expected after their Omaha trip last year. Mm-hmm. So it just shows you how thin the margin for success is in baseball. These are 2 Omaha teams, and now they're 1-6 and 2-5 in conference.
It's crazy. And you look at this and you go, okay, these are 2 good baseball teams, and they both have been struggling to find out to get wins here early in the season SEC play. If A&M can figure out some things offensively, but pitching, like you said, starting pitching has been good for them. So that hasn't been the problem. And if they start getting performances like this from Weston Moss out of the bullpen, this team could be one of those teams that we see making that second half comeback, and all of a sudden they're back in this thing. But a big win for A&M fans. Way to go, get your first one there. Incredible. Cal 10, Louisville 11. This was crazy because Louisville builds this lead in the middle of the game. You're like, okay, Cal's been a great story. They've won almost every single Friday night game here in ACC play. It's been crazy that they go win these games. And then they score 4 in the 7th and then 4 in the 9th to take the lead. You're like, they're doing it again. This is incredible. Cal goes and wins no matter what on Friday. Cardinal do walk this one off in the bottom of the 9th with the Moore double and the Monroe single. But I think Cal has been a surprise story for most people in the ACC, how they've just been able to compete no matter who they're up against. They've faced a lot of ranked teams on the road.
Yeah, they've faced ranked teams on the road, and they've, like you said, up until now, beaten them on Fridays, and it's because they're relentless offensively. They don't give up. I don't know if, we saw a Louisville team try to coast to the finish line after building the big lead. Maybe when you're up 9-3, and then it's, quickly 9-6, and then there's a 3-run homer and it's 9-9 in the 9th, and you're like, okay, maybe we shouldn't have coasted. Maybe we should have tried to shut this team down. But sometimes one of the hardest things to do in baseball is get up off the mat after a team that you think you had that game in hand storms back and takes the lead on you. And to be able to come through in the bottom of the 9th for a Cal team that knows how to win on Fridays. Yeah. And I'm sure they had all the confidence that, okay, we have the lead in the 9th now. This is just what we do. Louisville, great job continuing to battle, not giving up, not rolling over, securing that Friday win. Cal, roster wise, not the same level as Louisville, but there is definitely, a confidence with that team. And just kudos to Louisville. They've had some games not end how they want recently. So to fight through to the end like that, very impressive on a Friday. They're going to use this as try to be a statement series. 4-3 in conference. They're looking to leave this weekend at 6-3 and truly stake their claim as one of the best teams in the ACC. Cal trying to stake their claim as, hey, we're real. We're not a pushover. We're not the other team from California. We are here. We're here to make some noise, and we can play very good baseball against very good competition on East Coast or West Coast.
Yeah, they've been battling, and this is a young Cal team. This is a team that's only getting better throughout the season. They keep getting better every single weekend, and this was a good performance for them to try to come back and win that baseball game. But Louisville is very talented, and then after last weekend's loss at Virginia Tech, they wanted to come back out and prove, hey, we are that team. We're still there, guys. We're going to compete for an ACC title. So going out there and coming back after being ahead all day and then getting the walk off, a big win there. A doubleheader here, USC and Indiana. USC takes the first one 10-5. Second game goes to Indiana 13-6. 5 home runs in game one for USC. The power just pushes into victory. Dowd, Lopez, Basir, Hedges, Gruzlonic all hit home runs in that first game. Big one there for them. Hunter Caden now 5-1 for USC. Big Friday night performance there. Game two, kind of the opposite. And when you think you're like, oh, you got Aoki going on game two for USC, you're feeling pretty good about yourself. A 6-run second inning pushes Indiana straight up to the win, and that was all there was. Is just that 6 runs early just got Indiana going, and they had to go out there and go get that victory.
Yeah, Indiana, they won. I think it was they won the Friday game against UCLA last week and then dropped the series. Trying to flip the script this weekend. You go up against a very hot offense on game one for Southern Cal, and it seems like they might do that for game two. You get the run in the first, they respond with 2 in the second. It's like, okay, we might be in for another slugfest. But like you said, that 6 spot in the bottom of the second really felt like settled that Indiana team down of, hey, we're in control now. Let's just go out and play our game. Let's continue to tack on runs, which they kept doing. Every time Southern Cal would score, they would score in the bottom half. They would respond. Maybe not the best pitched game you're ever going to see, which is rare when Caden Aoki starts and it's not a well pitched game. But it was more of an offensive, just great approaches, getting pitches to hit and doing damage with them. And Indiana needs this. They're 15-12, winning record in conference. But again, they're one of the teams that may need to get through the conference tournament and possibly put themselves in a good position for a resume that way to get into the tournament. So Indiana needs these wins, and especially to drop game one and almost kind of get doors blown off with an offense that just seems to have an answer for every arm you throw out there. Be able to respond like that and have your own offense go out, put up a baker's dozen runs, and then only give up 6. It truly felt, like a settled the team down, calm the emotions for Indiana. We'll see who wins the series. This might be a series that you look back on for both teams, and it's kind of like, okay, that's when the season started going the direction it ended up being.
Both of these fan bases seem to be holding their breath because they don't know which way this season's going to turn out for either. I mean, they both had high hopes. Both these teams were picked in the top half of the Big Ten. They both have not performed up to that level. They've had blazes of glory. They've both had really good games, and they've had some really ugly games and some losses. So this third game here today is going to be a big, important game for both these teams moving forward for the rest of the season. But good wins for both teams. And then you could also look at it and say that was a bad loss on the other side of it. So getting the other lineup. So, but big game here the rest of the weekend here today. NC State and Duke, 2 teams that have been battled all season long. These guys have both had really good win streaks and then some bad losses. NC State loses this one 1-5. It was Duke all day though. Just the 4 hits allowed to the Wolfpack. Ben Miller goes home run twice in this one to start it off. That's something that Duke has just not felt like they've had that performance from their superstars. And then they've gone out there and Ben Miller hits these 2 home runs, and you could just feel that fan base breathe. You could feel the coaching staff be like, all right, here we go. And then pitching just really does what it's supposed to, keeping NC State off the base paths all day long. And it wasn't even a bad outing for Fritton. He pitched well on the other side, right?
Yeah, I mean, Fritton had a good, outing that if you put that up there on the road against most ACC teams, NC State's going to think they have a chance to win the game. And really, if it wasn't for Owen Prosch and Reed Easterly just kind of balling out of the for the pitching staff for Duke, then you might have had a chance. It feels like Ben Miller's the one piece for Duke that's been consistent this year. He's
Mhm.
quietly up to 13 home runs on the year. So this is a game where the pitching staff actually showed up, and then Ben Miller himself offensively is enough to win you the game. There have been multiple games this year where Ben Miller himself offensively will put up 4 or 5 runs himself, and then the pitching staff won't pitch like they did last night, and they'll lose. We saw that against Cincinnati. We've seen that against Cornell, teams that really, when Duke lost to, you kind of just bump them off your radar a little bit. So Duke, above 500 in ACC play. They are a team that is still there, still very well coached. It might have just taken them a little bit longer to get going. And yes, they might drop a game here or there, but it seems like they've won most of the series they're supposed to win. So quietly wouldn't give up on them. People gave up on NC State after their rough start to the year. They're playing much better baseball. This is a series between probably two of the most undervalued teams in the country right now. I I look to this series as both of these teams, regardless of the outcome, if they play good baseball, this series could be a launching pad for both of these teams to actually make runs and reassert themselves on a national stage.
I'm with you. I think that both these teams have the opportunity to be really good in the second half of the season. They both have the talent. They both have the rosters. They both have these experienced teams that know how to win baseball games and have been deep into tournaments. I see both these squads and I say, okay, they're all right. I mean, even with NC State losing last night, they don't feel too bad. They've had an 11 game winning streak in their season, which was crazy after their start. Good to see that. Duke, big story though at home to go out there and go get that win and get a pitching performance that they have not had enough of this season as of yet. So big one there for Duke. Oregon State travels to Nebraska. That Nebraska crowd was crazy, and it was awesome to see. Huge wins going from right to left. Nebraska starts off with a pair of home runs in the third inning to get things going for Big Red. Stone and Carey both jump out, get big fastballs, hit them out of the ballpark. 7-0 lead after the Frost big fly in the fifth, and you're like, boy, Nebraska, where's this been all season long? And now you're starting to do it. This could be another one of those launching pad things as you're talking about for some of these teams, especially a big team playing an Oregon State team as the top 10 baseball team. Uh, 2-run shot from Turley in the sixth, just not enough. Drew Christo out of the pen was terrific. But this whole Nebraska team just holding Oregon State to only 5 hits on the day was outstanding.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, Eric Segura didn't have the start he wanted for Oregon State. Got stuck with his first loss of the year, but it was
Yeah.
more about the how complete Nebraska played yesterday that they earned that win. Offense showed up. It was the 2 homers early, and then just continuing to tack on and expand that lead. Make it 4, make it 5, and then a 2-run bomb late in the fifth. Really felt like it almost put the game away. Because of how the pitching staff was performing. Will Walsh, Drew Christo for Nebraska, just shutting down a very, very dangerous lineup that, maybe there might have been some travel, some jet lag involved in there. And, they're going to try to play a desperate team. And sometimes we see desperate teams make the mistakes, try to force the game, and have it just unravel on them. And sometimes we see them play it like they did against Oregon State, where Nebraska goes out and just plays a complete game, has all the energy behind them, and frankly just kind of pantsed an Oregon State team that may not have expected that environment and that energy. Um, we'll see if they can bounce back. They have the potential to bounce back in games 2 and 3. They definitely have the talent to do so. But this is a Nebraska team that if they can gain some confidence, the talent's there to play some dangerous baseball. Uh, Not a team that I would want to play if they got rolling. So we will see if they can have a successful weekend series against a very, very good nationally ranked Oregon State team.
Yeah, and this Nebraska squad, it feels like the last few years, they always come back in the second half of the season. They're like, this is the team we expected. Well, they start playing good baseball. And that fan base, though, is tremendous, man. I was shocked by how many people were out there at that ball game and it really getting into it the whole game. Good to see. Big win for Nebraska. Weather's going to play into it a little bit the rest of this weekend. I know they've already moved up the Sunday game to 9:30, and then there's a huge storm coming through right now. So we'll see if we get the other 2 games in. But big win there for Nebraska to start this one. Arizona State on the road at Utah. Tough place to play. It's a minor league park. It's pretty big. Arizona State wins 9-5. a different Arizona State offense. No home runs today, AJ. 9 runs, no long balls, 17 hits. They just banged the ball around the yard. This game was tied at fours in the sixth inning, but a King double in the seventh and then a Harrison single in the eighth would really break this tie for good. But the 17 hits and no home runs, that was a full flip of the script for Arizona State.
Yeah, it was almost like they embraced the fact that they were playing in a bigger ballpark, and instead of trying to do more at the plate, they simplified their approach and they were like, okay, we're just going to hit balls hard, and we're just going to continue to barrel up baseballs. We're going to try not to do damage with the big 3-run shot. We're not going to try to drop back shoulder and hit a cool scenic home run in a minor league ballpark. We're going to stay within ourselves, and we're going to just, as we get the pitches to hit, we're going to hit them. We're going to hit them where they're pitched, and they just kept the pressure on. Utah pitching staff wasn't able to keep the Arizona State offense down. And again, very tough task to ask any pitching staff to keep down an Arizona State offense, but an Arizona State offense that isn't trying to put up the big number, that isn't trying to hit the 440-foot homer, and is staying within themselves up and down the lineup. That's not a lineup that I want any pitching staff to face and have success. It's very, very dangerous. If they keep that approach this entire weekend and not just get excited and look at the scorecard of, oh, we put up 9, let's try to put up 15 today and not get out ahead of themselves, this could be an offense that gets rolling very, very quickly and might become virtually unstoppable.
Yeah, this is an offense we've all talked about all off season, and then during the season they've had some huge games, they've had some rough games. But if this team consistently finds the barrel like they did today, and they start finding out ways to hit singles and doubles and mix it in with the long ball that they have at the home ballpark, my goodness! And if they get starts like this from Ben Jacobs, it's going to be really tough to beat them on a Friday night. Big win for Arizona State on the road. All wins on the road are big. Another road win. Baylor goes to Arizona, a team that's probably been one of the hottest in the country, AJ. And they beat them 8-5. It seemed like every time Arizona got something going offensively, like they go score, the Baylor Bears just answered immediately. They're like, no, we're going to score right after you guys. The Bears were out hit in this one, but the timely hits were huge. And then the Connect home run in the fourth really seemed to be that motivation for Baylor to just keep going and stay on top.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes there's nothing more frustrating than scoring 1 and then having your opponent score 2, and then scoring 1 and then having your opponent score 2. And it's like they just do that. They punch back every single time. And that's really what happened. Arizona scores 1 in the bottom of the first. Baylor scores 2 in the top of the second. Arizona scores 1 in the bottom of the third. Baylor scores 2 in the top of the fourth. And it's just like, okay, not only are they responding, but they're taking the lead and then they're expanding on the lead. And it's, pitching staff needs to go out and throw a shutdown inning after you put runs up on the board. And Arizona wasn't able to do that. Really never felt like they were in control of the game because of how Baylor was responding. Felt like Arizona was chasing the game a little bit. And great job for Baylor to keep Arizona in that position to continue to have to chase them and not be able to really take control, seize the game, seize the momentum at any point. Very, very well played game by Baylor.
Yeah, and they just a full complete game. Baylor has been a nice little resurgence this year, and they've shown that they have this ability. They haven't been consistent, so I'd like to see more consistency out of this Baylor team. But it really felt like they knew that they were going to go out there and just punch back every single inning and just keep fighting in this one. And it's a big road win. Tough loss for Arizona at home there, especially for a Big 12 loss, but a big win on the road for Baylor. TCU 2, Houston 3. Just 5 hits for TCU. The Houston Cougars outduel the Horned Frogs. Antoine Jean again. I don't know how many more times I got to bring this guy up, AJ, but he's just masterful out of the pen. 4 1/3, 2 hits, 4 strikeouts. He just throws strikes and he makes it so you don't hit the long ball and he keeps you in a baseball game. Xavier Perez Hughes 2 RBI double in the third. De Jesus hits the double in the seventh to make it no difference there. Franco both RBIs for TCU, but the story is Antoine Jean out of the bullpen.
And again, and that's for a Houston team that I think many people had just kind of automatically slotted in at the bottom of the conference. Like it was not a forget about them, but they're not going to be a threat. They may take a game from, some of the mid teams here or there, but it's been because of people like Antoine Jean who can go out and not try to do too much, pitch within themselves, and not going to have anything to really blow you away. Don't have a true plus pitch, but just know how to pitch, know how to play the game. and they're finding themselves in ball games against teams who probably didn't expect to be in ball games with Houston
Yeah.
and winning those games. And so again, TCU, like you look at the roster and you're like, yes, this roster is better than Houston, but it's baseball. You got to show up. You got to play the game. Houston continues to go out and play good baseball, good fundamentally sound baseball. They don't have anybody on their roster who it's like, this is the next first round guy. This is the guy who could be, all conference talent. But they're playing as a team. They're playing as a unit. Just really, really impressed by the brand of baseball that's being developed in Houston right now.
Yeah, and Antoine G now that's back-to-back performances in Big 12 on Friday where he goes out, stops UCF who put up a bunch of runs early in that game, and then Houston comes back and wins. Stops the TCU offense, just says you're not scoring anymore. This is it. It is really good performance for him to come out of the pen. Like you said, doesn't have plus stuff, doesn't have really anything that's going to make you go, this guy's going to get drafted. But he just pitches well and he goes out there and keeps performing. So huge win for Houston at home there. Again, a team that a lot of us didn't think was going to be near the middle or even the top there of Big 12, and they just keep performing somehow. Miami 0, UNC 2, a single and a sac fly in the fifth are all the offense that would need. Three hits only for the Tar Heels as Griffin Hughes was massive for Miami, but they just couldn't get any runs going on their side. Jake Knapp outduels them, and I don't even know if it was an outduel, if it was just the 2 runs that they got. But Jake Knapp has been terrific for UNC as well. So really true pitcher's duel today.
Yeah, I mean, Jake Knapp has to be on your short list for best pitchers in the country up until this point.
Yep.
I think his ERA is now down to like, yeah, I mean, ERA is like around 1.6 now, 5-0. It's a true Friday night ace for a team that we kind of thought was filled with them. They've had some pitching struggles towards the back end of the rotation, maybe out of the bullpen a little bit, but Jake Knapp has not been part of the struggles. Jake Knapp has been Jake Knapp. He's been the true Friday night guy. And, North Carolina offense has been more explosive than we kind of expected. This was a game where the offense didn't show up. They were kind of held in check. But when you have Jake Knapp going and he's like, it's all right, I'm just going to throw up zeros, then you can get away with an off offensive night. I don't expect there to be many more off offensive nights for North Carolina this week. But, it's good to have your bad night offensively when you have a guy like Jake Knapp going.
Yeah, and Griffin has been really, really good in ACC. He just, I mean, man, just the lack of offense from Miami is just the biggest concern. The pitching staff for Miami has been so much more improved this year, and it just they cannot find offense. They just can't find the offense to get going. This is a Miami team that has now found themselves in dead last in the ACC, which I don't think a lot of people had picked for them to be last in the ACC. All right, our favorite segment here, something cool. Tell me something cool over the weekend or during the week or, the whole week of college baseball.
Yeah, so I actually got to go to the Florida State game in Jacksonville during the week. Pitchers duel early and absolutely got insane towards the end. Alex Lodi's hit for the cycle and capped off the cycle with a walk-off grand slam after Florida had taken the lead in the top of the ninth. Just continues to rake, just continues to be an absolute stud. Arguably, arguing with his cousin, but one of the best shortstops in all of college baseball this year. Definitely the ACC, which is a loaded shortstop conference, by the way. You go and you look at the ACC shortstops, and it's insane. But he's just going out there and providing clutch AB after clutch AB, showing off all of his tools. Dude has unmatched confidence right now. Really don't think that anything could stop him, maybe besides himself at this point. Florida State as a whole, when you can have a guy like him show up and give length to that lineup, really insane. But to be able to have him cap off his cycle with a walk-off grand slam against your rival, it was truly electric.
I love checking in on the battle between the cousins every night now. It's like my favorite thing to do is stat watch and see between those two. Kyle over there at Georgia Tech. And yeah, it's awesome. It's so fantastic to watch, and it seems like they just try to one up each other every single night. When the other one plays first, it's like, oh, I got to do better than that. Awesome to see. I just love it. My something cool is the stuff that we're seeing across the country in ballparks. Man, we're doing hot dog giveaways. They're doing free beers if you go up to the ball games. Like the giveaways and the traditions have just been growing so exponentially. I know that for myself and a lot of people that have been going out to ball games this year, the fan base is getting huge and it's growing at just this exponential rate, and I love it. It's the fastest growing college sport, AJ, where there's the most fan base that's joined into this, and you see it across the country where all these baseball stadiums are having to expand because they're selling out of their stadiums and people want more. They want more. They want to be in these ball games. They want to be part of this fun. And college baseball is fun. I love the giveaways. I love it that these fans are buying into it. I love that the universities are putting money back into these programs and saying we're going to build these stadiums because people are showing up and they want to be here. This is not just SEC. This is not just ACC. This is across the country, folks, where you're seeing baseball is just back. And I love that the college sport is growing so fast, and I'm all for it. I'm all here for it, man.
it,
Okay.
it's 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 awesome to watch. Like,
Yeah.
truly, as a college baseball fan, like, you hear of certain pockets where it's like, okay, SEC and SEC, or ACC and SEC, and then your schools like ECU, or your schools like Louisiana or Coastal, where it's like, okay, these teams love their programs, and it's just like these these teams. It's not these conferences, but that's growing. It's not only growing, coast to coast. It's the smaller conferences are investing in their programs. It's the bigger conferences that just aren't, quote unquote, baseball conferences, are investing in their programs. You mentioned, I mentioned Kansas earlier. Like, that's an environment that really 2 years ago wasn't really an environment. And then this year they're leaning into it. It's a raucous fan base. They're interacting with the crowd. It's it's electric to see. College baseball is at its best when fans are involved and motivated behind teams, and not just your top end teams, but teams across the country. And that's what we're just seeing more and more of.
Yeah, and we're seeing a dispersion of talent across the United States, right? So there's guys that are good everywhere. Every conference has some dudes. Every team has some dudes. And now the fan bases are getting to go out and show out and see these guys, and I love it. I mean, I think it's just the greatest thing. All right, another new segment here today, AJ. Contender or pretender? We've done this every single season. We're going to start with the ACC. I'm going to tell you a team. I'm going to tell you their conference record and their record, and you tell me if they are a contender to win the regular season championship or if they're a pretender. Georgia Tech, 7-3, 21-5 overall.
I'm gonna go contender. I think that the pitching staff is deep enough. I think the bullpen is good enough, to have success over a 3 game series and not just games 1 and 2. The offense is definitely loaded. It will be interesting in the ACC because there are so many good teams,
Oh,
but that's a team that has the depth and the talent to make their way to the top.
Wake Forest, 7-3, 20-7 overall.
I'm gonna say pretender, and that's gonna kind of probably upset some people. Merrick Houston definitely deserves to be in Golden Spikes conversations with how he's been playing so far, but when you have your Friday night guy back to back weekends not really pitch like himself, um, a lot relies on the Wake Forest pitching staff. The offense isn't as deep as it has been over the past couple of years, and with Logan Lunsford, not being himself. If he was himself, then maybe I'd be in a different frame of mind. But right now, still going to be a very good team. I think postseason's a lock, but to win the ACC, I don't think so this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've had concerns about the offense since preseason, and they've surprised me. They've had some really good games, and then there's games like yesterday where they score the 2 runs. Duke is now 6-4 in conference with that win last night, and 18-9 overall.
I'm going to go pretender. That's not because I don't like the Duke team. I just think maybe they were in too deep of a hole to start out with. A couple different series that you probably should have walked away with wins that you didn't walk away with wins. Again, they could be playing some of the best baseball towards the end of the year. That would not surprise me at all. But purely to get to the top of the ACC might just be too hard of a hill to climb. Also need to see a little bit more consistently offensively. It can't just be Ben Miller. Pitching staff has to continue to show up. Like I said, wouldn't surprise me if they were playing some of the best baseball. Maybe a 3 or 4 seed in the ACC tournament, but to win it all, not Duke this year.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that we all say, Clemson and Florida State, they're up the top there. It's the rest of these teams. Are they going to be able to go back up and punch at those teams? with Florida State losing last night to Notre Dame, it kind of opens up the conversation more. But yeah, I'm with you. I think Duke needs more consistency. Let's move over to the SEC, where I got a few teams here. I think that we all say, Arkansas, LSU, Tennessee, they're fine. They're all contenders. We're going to put them up in that contender bracket. But I'm going to talk about some other teams that have surprised us. Georgia is now 6-1 and 26-2 overall. Are they a contender to win the SEC regular season title?
This was an easier question yesterday before I saw the pitching performance. I'm still gonna say no. I'm still gonna say pretender.
Okay.
You look at who they have played so far. They have played Kentucky and Florida, two teams who are combined, who have three combined conference wins so far, and it's just not. You haven't played the teeth of your schedule yet. Like, yes, you do have an easier schedule. You do have, your series at Texas against Arkansas, but you dodge Tennessee, you dodge LSU, you dodge some of the bigger programs that would definitely take a chunk out of you this year. I just don't trust the pitching. I think that we've seen the offense be about as good as it can be. I don't think they're necessarily going to slow down, but I just don't think that they've really tested themselves against good conference competition yet. I don't know if I take them to win the SEC. I just don't think that they have the complete team that LSU and Arkansas do.
My concern is weekend rotation. I just don't think that they have a dominant enough weekend rotation to go out there and win ball games when the offense stumbles. Great performance yesterday. Kind of surprised me. Kind of threw me for a loop when I put them in this conversation. But we'll see what happens. I mean, they still got some tough teams to play. Texas 6-1 and 21-3 overall has been a big surprise. Are they contenders?
Big surprise. I'm still in the. I'm comparing them against Arkansas and against LSU, but yeah, I'm going to say that they are contenders with how they've played, the brand of baseball they've played. It feels like they're just continuing to gel as a team. Pitching staff is deeper than you think. Offense is more explosive than you think. They play fundamentally sound baseball. They're not afraid to go on the road and win. Very, very well coached team. Jim Schlossnagle is one of the best coaches in college baseball, whatever you think about him. He is, and that pitching staff, Max Wiener, it's just unreal what he can get out of those guys. So yeah, I think they are real contenders for the SEC this year.
And they already took 2 of 3 from LSU, which is one of those
Right.
teams we already know is contender. So big series. Alabama, another super surprising team this season, 5-2 with a 24-3 overall.
Yeah, Alabama for me, in terms of winning the SEC, I'm going to say pretenders, but it's because they're solidly in that second tier. They're kind of, if I'm seeding the teams based off of who I think would beat who on any given night, they're probably 4th or 5th in the conference. Definitely have the talent to win. If people stay healthy, if pitching continues to perform, they could creep into that conversation towards the end of the year. Certain things break one way or the other, but it's definitely a really, really hard hill to climb, especially losing the series to Tennessee, having Tennessee hold that tiebreaker over you. It's rough. I don't think that they have. It's not that they don't have the talent. It's that other teams have more talent, and other teams have the experience of being there before. I just maybe next year for Alabama being at this point, but I mean, definitely in the regional host conversation at the very least.
Yeah, great story so far. They've played tremendous baseball. I'm with you. I don't think that they are a contender this season. I'd like to see more pieces other than Zane Adams on the weekend rotation pitch a little bit better, but still, great story, and they've been taking care of business. Let's move to the Big Ten. A story that has just kind of thrown me off is Iowa is now 10-2. Their conference series is already done this weekend. Also, they swept Minnesota 10-2 in conference, 17-9 overall. They're technically in first place right now, but are they a contender to win the Big Ten?
I mean, it's hard to say no at this point, right? Like, last year was supposed to be the team for Iowa that was like, oh, this is the year where they make that giant leap forward. This is the year where they make their mark. But they get out. It's gonna really for them come down to the last weekend of the year if they play good baseball. That's when they play Oregon,
Yep.
and Oregon is kind of odds-on favorite right now to win the Big Ten. A couple other teams could be in that contender conversation, but Iowa playing how they're playing, um, a couple different conference sweeps now. Uh, yeah, I think you have to say they're contenders.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to not to. And Kate Obermueller is one of the best pitchers in the country. When he gets going, he gives them a chance any night he's pitching. All right, I know you're excited about this one, AJ. UCLA, 8-2, now tied with the Ducks, up there with only the 2 losses and 8 wins, 20-5 overall. Are they a contender to win the Big Ten?
Again, I think you have to say yes. Just the brand of baseball they've been playing consistently. If they lose one game, they don't let that beat them later on. They've gone on the road and had success, which is in the Big Ten. Traveling from California, you need to prove you can go on the road and have success. You're going to be on the road a lot. You're going to travel. So yeah, they've played really, really good baseball. It's hard to fluke your way into 20-5. Um, it's it's the fundamentally sound, scrappy. You could be down 4-3 or 5-2 in the middle innings, not panic, come back and win those games. I'm very, very impressed with UCLA this year, and I think they have to be marked as contenders in the Big Ten.
I agree. I got one more for you, and I think that they're not, but I'm going to throw them out there because they've been playing really good baseball. Penn State, 6-4 now in conference and 17-8 overall.
Yeah, maybe the same kind of thing as the Duke situation, where playing really good baseball would not surprise me if they got rolling, but just too much ground to make up against a set of really, really good teams at the top of the conference. You look at Iowa, you look at Oregon, you look at even Arizona State's going to be a dangerous team. You look at UCLA, like you have to hurdle some of these teams and beat some of these teams. You've already lost to UCLA. I just don't know if you can make up that much ground to come out on top of the Big Ten. But wouldn't surprise me if they were a postseason team at all. It's just to win the Big Ten, probably not.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that those losses early to UCLA were the ones that really put them in a tough spot now because of the way that UCLA has played. Let's move over to the Big 12. I got 4 teams for you. I don't have anybody penciled in as I think that can win the conference. I have nobody that I'm saying they're the favorite. So we're going to start with Kansas State, who's now 6-1 in conference with a 17-8 overall.
I mean, anybody who's 6-1 in that conference can win it. It's just one of those conferences throughout the year. You have Texas leave, you have Oklahoma leave, and it's kind of who's going to stake their claim. Is it going to be new people to the conference? Is it going to be a returner who kind of overshadowed in the past? Again, Kansas State's been playing really, really good baseball. This is probably a conference where you have like 5 or 6 teams that you could mark as contenders and make really good arguments for them. I would not bet against Kansas State. I would definitely have them as one of my contenders.
I have them right now as a pretender because I just don't see enough star power for them to hang on and be able to do that. But they keep winning baseball games, and if I look back in a week from now and they're sitting there still with the 1 loss, it's going to be tough to say that they're not a contender. Arizona State, 5-2 in conference, 17-9 overall.
Yeah, I mean, what may keep them from from succeeding as a contender might be the pitching staff limitations, but in this conference, there aren't many teams who can run out a true number 1 and then back it up with a true number 2. Your offense is going to kind of dictate your success. Their offense is explosive if it can get rolling. It'd be hard to not have them as a contender. If I'm going to have Kansas State as a contender, I'm definitely going to have Arizona State as a contender. Just the offense can be lethal. It can carry them. Pitching staff has the talent to be just good enough to let the offense win games. And again, in that conference, it's an offensive first conference. I think Arizona State very well could win the Big 12.
Yeah, if Ben Jacobs gets going for them on Fridays, it makes them really, really tough. Arizona, now 5-2 with the loss yesterday, and 19-6 overall. They've been kind of a tale of two sides this season.
Yeah, and it's just Arizona would probably be the most talented team just purely from a roster breakdown point, but because they've been so hot and cold, it's hard to trust them. I would call them a pretender right now, just because they're just liable just to no show. We've seen that several times this year. Really, it might be part of their identity this year of we're going to show up for 70% of our games and really just ball out and maximize our potential. And then, of those games, maybe you win 8 out of 10 of those, and then we're just not going to show up for the other 30% and just kind of get doors blown off, play non-competitive, non-energetic baseball. And I just can't trust a team that has had multiple outings like that. Again, it's the Big 12; anything could happen. But I would look elsewhere for the Big 12 right now.
And my last one for you, a team that we've mentioned multiple times here, Kansas is now 4-3 in conference, 21-6 overall. They play really good at home, not so good on the road.
Yeah, and it's again one of those situations to where if it wasn't for that little rough patch that they went through in conference, if they could even be at 5-2, then maybe you could probably easier to make up ground that way. But to be 4-3 again, could be playing some of the best baseball in the country, could be 2 seed in a regional kind of conversation, but too much ground to make up in a conference where yeah, you may have the best Friday night guy. But the rest of the pitching depth needs to continue to perform, especially on the road. If they can start winning road series, that would flip that switch for me. Then I would have them as contenders. But until they can prove that they can go on the road against a good quality opponent and take a series from them, I'm going to have them as pretenders right now.
I agree. I love their home ballpark. I love what they've done. I love that the fan base is there. I want to see them win a road series and be like, okay, that puts a stamp on me thinking that you guys have a chance of winning this conference. Last one here, Sun Belt Conference. 3 really good baseball teams. There's more than 3 really good baseball teams in this conference, but these are the 3 that I think have the best chances of winning. Southern Miss currently in the lead right now, 6-1 with 19-7 overall. Troy hosts Southern Miss to end the season, so we'll think about that later. And Southern Miss has not played Coastal yet either. So Southern Miss 6-1, 19-7 overall.
So are those the 3 teams that you have as
Southern Miss, Troy, and Coastal are the 3 teams? I'll let you just pick one, and then I'll go with mine.
Yeah, so of those teams, I go Southern Miss. I just have the most faith in the experience of the players. They've been around. They've been there before. You have a new head coach at Coastal Carolina, kind of taking over for a guy who's been there a while.
Yep.
And then it's split the difference between, Skylar Meade at Troy, who's a very, very good head coach, and Southern Miss. Again, it probably comes down to that series for who wins the Sun Belt. Southern Miss is going to be battle tested. They've been there before as a program. It's not new ground to them. I think that this is a team that could very well host a regional at the end of the year. It's tough to pick against Skylar Meade. I'm a South Carolina guy. He was a South Carolina pitching coach. Love to see him have success, but I think Southern Miss is going to win it.
I'm taking Troy in the simple fact that they already won the series against Coastal after getting blown out in the first game, and then they won the next 2. And they get at home against Southern Miss to end that season. I can't wait. I think the Sun Belt's fun. I think all 3 of these teams should be tournament teams. I'd be shocked if all 3 of them don't make the tournament. There might even be a 4th Sun Belt team that can sneak in. That's how good this conference is. All right, any final thoughts as we head into the rest of the weekend, AJ? I know we've had some series in, but we got a lot of good baseball left.
Yeah, I hope the weather doesn't impact too many games actually being played. I hope it just moves some start times around because there are a lot of good series that we need to be able to have full conference series play out. I hate when it's a game's rained out on Sunday because teams don't want to actually play a doubleheader on Saturday. I'm glad that we were able to get all of the Florida Ole Miss series in. Florida is definitely happy to get that in. They'd much rather be 1-8 than 0-8 if they weren't able to get that game 3 in. So might see some funky schedules move around, but stay locked in on your ESPN Plus app, your ACC network, your SEC network. College basketball, it's all 1, 2s, and 3 seeds left. Like, why even watch that anymore? Lock in on some college baseball.
Yeah, join us. I mean, we're going to be out there doing all sorts of college baseball stuff. You can join on any of our live streams, any of our stuff we do. We cover this game coast to coast. I know a lot of us tweet out during games, so if you want some live stats during games, some fun video, come check us out. For AJ Sessions, I'm Mark Garland. Thanks for joining us on the Weekend Rotation. We'll see you guys again next week.